Pesticides, intended effects, and research. Intended effects of pesticides are they are used to kill or control a species of a pest. Pesticides can include insecticides, which will kill insects, herbicides, which will kill weeds and other unwanted plants, and fungicides, which will kill fungi. Pesticides are most popularly used in the farming industry, which helps farmers to control unwanted species of whether it be plants or insects to help boost their crop yield. Research shows that pesticides increase crop yield and prevent diseases in crops. This will increase revenue for farmers and has a very positive impact on the farming industry. It is estimated that since 1945, the use of pesticides has prevented the disease of around 7 million people by killing pests that carry or transmit diseases. Over time, a certain species of pest can be killed off by continual use of an insecticide. This can be beneficial, as shown, to kill out pests that carry certain diseases. Some unintended effects that pesticides have on a population is they can build up a resistance over time. So certain insects or plants can build up a resistance to certain pesticides, which in turn farmers have to use more pesticides to kill these insects or plants. This impacts human and animal health. More specifically, in humans, pesticides have been shown to cause cancer, and in animals, it decreases the biodiversity in the ecosystem, such as pollinators and other beneficial insects. It kills them off. It's very damaging to the environment and the ecosystem as a whole. It impacts the water and soil conditions due to runoff from soil, and that goes into our water and contaminates it.
I'm here to talk about the population level effects of pesticides. The populations that are affected by pesticides are mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, insects, and other invertebrates, plants, and fungi. Also, the pesticides have decreased the population of wildlife in number. For examples, immunotoxicity, which increased mortality on mammals and population decline on amphibians. Neurotoxicity leads to mortality incidents on insects and other invertebrates, and mass deaths on birds and fish. Endocrine disruption leads to population decline on birds and affected population parameters on reptiles. Lastly, impaired photosynthesis leads to impaired phytoplankton on plants and fungi.
Community and ecosystem level effects of pesticides. First, a community is an interacting group of various species in a common location. And an ecosystem is a community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of their environment interacting as a system. Some examples of the effects of pesticides on community and ecosystem levels are found in the figure below. Starting with mammals, they can experience neurotoxicity, which can cause an altered behavior. They can also experience immunotoxicity, which is increased infection parasite rate, which in the populations will cause an increased mortality. Birds suffer from neurotoxicity, which is impaired foraging, learning, and chick rearing, which can cause mass deaths in the population. Reptiles can suffer from endocrine disruption, gonadal abnormalities, reproductive failure, and affected population parameters in the population. Amphibians can suffer from immunotoxicity, which has a higher parasite load, which can go to a population decline, which can also lead to, in the communities, increased parasite host richness. And then fish can suffer from neurotoxicity, which can cause altered behavior and mass deaths in the population. Insects and other invertebrates can suffer from neurotoxicity, which can cause altered behavior, altered pollinator services, and it can also go to a change in the plant species diversity in its communities and in the ecosystem, can cause decreasing habitat heterogeneity. Plants and fungi can suffer from impaired photosynthesis, which goes to impaired phytoplankton, which goes to changes in food sources, decline of natural enemies and predators in the communities.
The effects of global change on pesticide consequences. So this graph shows what is being impacted by climate change and what is being impacted by pesticides, and shows the effects on how they will be increased from climate change or pesticides. But in this case, in the chart's case, it shows that everything starts at global warming or global change and goes into pesticides and metabolites, which in turn later shows that the end of the cycle is the nutrient cycle, and both are being impacted by pesticides and global change. And the nutrient cycle is probably one of the most, if not the most important part of our ecosystem, because it keeps everything running and everything, all the animals and other parts of the ecosystem balanced. So as we can see, both climate change and pesticides are detrimental to the environment, but once global warming or global change impacts pesticides and metabolites, the detriment to the ecosystem is much worse than it would be with just one of them. To solve all the issues humans have put on the earth with global climate change and pesticides, we have to look at microevolution and the future research. So future research is needed to find the confounding variables and what is actually affecting the environment detrimentally. So while we know that global climate change and pesticides are detrimental, we don't know if parts of the detriment are all global climate change or pesticides' fault. So we need to look at everything within the issue to see what really is being caused by climate change and what is being caused by pesticides. Now, another thing we need to look at is microevolution, because microevolution could catch up and help save what is being lost to global climate change and pesticides, but human help is very much needed. So microevolution is not always a fast-paced thing. Sometimes it can be slower paced, but for the most part it is able to catch up. But pesticides need to stop being used so microevolution can catch up, because it hurts everything that's falling apart.